Well, there was a news poll out today on the Indigenous referendum that we're going to see at the end of the year. News poll revealing that 46% of Australians intend to vote yes. That's down below 50%, I think, for the first time. And you've got 43% of people saying that they will vote no. Less than half of eligible Australians now say they'll vote in favour of a referendum to enshrine a voice to Parliament, executive government. A troubling sign, I would have thought, for the referendum. Joining me is the panel tonight. We've got Michael Kroger, former Liberal Party president, and Stephen Conroy, former Labor senator. Senator, to you first. If you were now Anthony Albanese, would you split the question and change the approach?
Look, I think the campaign is in its very early stage. There's been a lot of discussion. The legislation's only just passed. I think that last week is the starter's gun. I think the advertising campaigns, taking Australians through it, explaining...
So that is no.
I don't think he's got a mind to change it at all. So I think...
But isn't that dangerous?
Well, is it dangerous
to be so backed into the corner that you're not willing to think about changing it?
No, but this is not the Prime Minister's prerogative in the sense. This is an invitation from the Indigenous community, crafted by their leadership, a broad leadership, not just one or two. So it's a broad leadership that said, here's what we believe would help heal all of the past. And so they've put it forward.
You're a political operative, right? When you see you're going to lose something, don't you change?
Well, I don't think Albo believes they're going to lose it yet.
Michael, they're going to lose it?
Well, they're going to lose. 46-43 in a private poll is actually a majority against. This thing's has lost support, Steve, as you know, month after month after month, for a very good reason. People don't believe they're getting the true story. They're not getting the full story. They're suspicious, right? They're not getting the detail and they're thinking, why aren't we getting told the detail? For example, why hasn't Albanese talked about the Voice Secretariat that will need to be set up? There'll need to be a government department set up, staffed by lawyers, to explain the details of proposed legislation to the 24 or however many members there are of The Voice. You don't think 24 members of The Voice are going to get every day emailed copies of draft legislation and they're just going to sit there all day looking at this legislation. They'd have to have some legal advice to say, here are the implications of all of these proposed changes.
It staggers me. We're all old and ugly enough to remember the referendum to become a republic.
No.
You're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
The reason it went down was people didn't understand it and didn't get enough detail on exactly what was going to happen.
I'm not sure there was a lot to understand about one vote, one value, which the Liberal Party didn't support. I mean, seriously, it said one vote, one value to be a principle across electoral processes, and it was defeated. So I agree that it is hard to get it up. I mean, what that really says, that 46 number, is it's really going to struggle to get 4 states. So do I still think ultimately it'll be a 51% majority? Yes, or above, hopefully. But that number, I begin to worry about where you find 4 states.
Why not just step back and go, we want Australians to decide on whether we want to enshrine Indigenous Australians into the Constitution, yes or no?
He should.
That would get up.
Yeah.
Not?
Well, if you took out executive government, Steve, if he takes out executive government, he's got a chance of getting it up, because people think it's not right for one section and one section only of the community to have a right to talk to the government, to government departments, to the Governor-General, to ministers, about every piece of proposed legislation when no one else in the country has that right? People think there's an inherent unfairness to them. What people do want is to do things which improve the lives of First Nations, Indigenous Australians, but they think this is overreach. People think this is going far too far.
Point.
As I said, this is not a document that is the government's per se to change. This is an invitation from those that were Uluru from the heart, and they said, this is what we would like to put forward. And so the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, believed ultimately that was, in good faith, put together by the Indigenous community.
I don't know if you...
and should be put to the Australian people.
I don't know if you get out of the city much into regional Australia, do you?
To play golf.
Well,
in the country.
No, Michael, don't be like that. Not recently.
So if you're in regional Queensland or regional WA, and I've been in both places not that long ago, and regional South Australia, I don't think there's any hope of this thing getting up.
There is very little support.
This is a city-based elites having a chat about.
Well, that's what people said
How's
about.
it going to fix those kids in Alice Springs?
That's what people said about the gay marriage vote.
Who are scared to go home.
That's what people said about the gay marriage vote.
Involved in domestic violence.
And people were shocked and surprised, pleasantly, that despite the predictions that it wouldn't get a majority in this electorate or that electorate, regional electorates.
Very different.
But those were the predictions.
Steve.
So I'm not writing this off yet, simply because I think the Australian public haven't become fully engaged yet. I mean, let's be serious. This is still a debate that hasn't reached
On hundreds of
mainstream Australia.
occasions, Albanese has talked about the voice in Parliament, at press conferences, during the election, all right, ad infinitum. He's made one trip to Alice Springs. One. Right? People
and was there 3 hours.
He was there for 4 hours. Right? He was 11 hours at the tennis, 4 hours in Alice Springs. People sense that there's something wrong with this proposal, that the priorities of the government are wrong when he makes one visit to help try and solve a serious endemic problem in this country, yet gives hundreds of conferences about the voice.
I agree. I'm sorry.